Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The Grade 1 Derby City Distaff is race number 8 at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Saturday. $750,000 for the fillies and mares going 7/8 of a mile. Let's take a peek at this field. Some of the better filly and mare sprinters in the country in this race. The morning line favorite is Just One Time, who has been a revelation for Brad Cox. This is a horse that started her career in Pennsylvania at Penn National at Presque Isle Downs. She's now a Grade 1 stakes winner.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better with every race, Dan. She was favored in the Grade 1 Madison last time against a race that 6 of these horses all ran in most recently. She came with the best run in the last run, and she got the job done.
You could make the argument that the pace kind of fell apart in the Madison because Bell's the One also came from far back. She ran second. Just One Time was able to run her down with the last and best run. Let's see how Timeform US has the pace for the Derby City Distaff. Lady Rocket, who is part of that pace, is back for more. Kamari, who is part of that pace, is back for more. And in from Southern California is a fleet horse named Edgeway. I think this pace has to be solid, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see if anybody decides to try it a different way here because, as already mentioned, 6 of these horses just ran in the Madison, and that pace got pretty competitive and set it up well for the closers. You add Edgeway into the mix and maybe it just even gets a little faster.
Like the morning line favorite, the number 1 Lady Rocket is trained by Brad Cox, and she exploded at the end of 2021. She won 3 of her final 4 starts, including a 107 Beyer performance going a 1-turn mile in the Go for Wand at Aqueduct. She ran in the Madison. She was part of that contested pace. It was a wet track. It was going 7 off the layoff. Maybe she needed one.
Maybe she did. I mean, you have to give her, you have to find some kind of an excuse for her, Dan, if you want to go back to her, because at the end of the day, she just didn't run that well in the Madison. Part of the pace with Kamari could never sort of fend that horse off through the stretch, and she got tired in the last furlong, just held on for 4th in there. It wasn't her best performance. I would argue that the 107 that she earned last December is an inflated number. But that doesn't mean that she's not good. I mean, she was improving at that time, and she could certainly take a step forward here.
Number 2 is Just One Time. Flavien Prat takes the mount for Brad Cox. Here's your 3-1 on the morning line favorite. Just One Time has won 6 of 7. She's won 4 in a row. She handles a wet track, which could be very, very important considering that we are expecting a little bit of rain at Churchill Downs on Saturday. And let's watch her performance in the Madison, defeating several of these horses. She did some good work. Yes, the pace worked to her advantage, but she kind of got blind switched a little bit by Bell's the One, Mike, who got the jump surprisingly on Just One Time. Now, Bell's the One's usually the one running horses down. Bell's the one striking the lead right now, and Just One Time goes by her pretty well.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she's just in really good form right now. I mean, I would accept the argument from anyone who just said, listen, Lannery, he pulled the trigger too soon, making the first run there, and it wound up costing him at the end. Just One Time, who prior to her start in the Inside Information 2 starts ago, Dan, was a horse who, was keeping right up close to the pace against some weaker competition. In the Inside Info, they took her back for the first time. She came with a big finish to close that race down, and she did it again last time.
Center Isle, the number 3, has had sort of fits and starts to her career, and maybe she's healthy right now. She's making her 2nd start off the form cycle. She ran in the Madison. She didn't break very well. Maybe she just didn't care for the wet track that day. She has won on wet tracks in the past, and she has won at Churchill Downs. A graded stakes winner 2 starts back in the Sugar Swirl. She beat Frank's Rocket that day. Frank's Rocket's okay, but not the caliber of mare that Center Isle will be facing on Saturday.
That's all true. I could see giving her a chance to rebound here as well, Dan. We'll see what kind of trip she can pull in this race because her better races have come when she's, part of the pace, and that may not work out that well in the start. I would just say that if you liked her going into the Madison, maybe you want to stick with her for one more race. Plenty of excuses coming out of that Madison, not only the layoff, breaking from the inside. She sort of lunged at the start. She came out a length or 2 slow. And then she just really couldn't get herself involved in the race, just riding the rail the entire way. I would happily put a line through that race if I liked her.
Kamari won the Madison in 2021 for Wesley Ward, and she has plenty of tactical speed. She made her return in 2022 in a nice, easy spot at Gulfstream, winning an allowance race. I think if you believe that the pace was very fast and that the race flow in the Madison went to closers, that Kamari ran one of the better races when finishing third because she was up on the pace, she put away the other speeds, and it took two classy closers to run her down.
Yeah, she ran fine. I mean, I don't think it was her best performance, Dan. And of course, up until the Madison last time, she was an undefeated dirt horse. They put her up on the pace in that spot. Neither she nor Lady Rocket, they just sort of matched around there. Neither one could really get the advantage in the stretch. And then Bell's the one came and took over, and then Just One Time came and swept past him as well. I thought Kamari did fine to be third. But it's not like I watched that race and felt like, oh, Kamari, ran a great race, had a big excuse. I didn't feel that way.
If you don't like the horses coming out of the Madison, then maybe the 5 Obligatory is your horse. She's done some very good work at Churchill Downs. She won the 8 bells over course and distance. She's 2 for 2 here. And let's going to take a look at her seasonal debut at Gulfstream Park. This is the Grade 3 Hurricane Birdie, and she got a very nice ride from Tyler Gaffalione off the layoff to split horses. But this is what she does. She fires in one-turn races. She kicks hard. The pace should be fast in this race. Bill Mott skipped the Madison to have a fresh horse on Derby Day, and here she is.
Yeah, I like it that he's stepping her back up too. She's looked really good in each of her last 2 starts. They were separated by a little bit of a layup, but I think she looked really good in each of those wins. And perhaps they're the 2 best races of her entire life. So I think she's moving forward at the right time. I think she fits right in with this field if she can work out any kind of a trip. But you mentioned the 8 bells over this track last year. I mean, she had an absolute wicked pace in front of her that day, and she came from last to close it down. What I liked about her is out of that race, they took her up for the Acorn, a 1-turn mile in a Grade 1, and it was sort of the total opposite situation there. She had no pace in front of her that day, and she still almost won.
And it's possible she's still getting better. She's relatively lightly raced. Talk about horses that benefited from fast pace. Bell's the one did just that when winning the Derby City Distaff in 2020. Just an electric pace up front. And Bell's the one kicked them all down. We saw her run second in the Madison. Maybe she did move a little bit too soon in that race. She ran very, very well. I think they're going to take her back and make one run again, and you're going to be hearing from her in the stretch. I respect her greatly.
Yeah, I do too. I think she's going to run her typical good race in here. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm right, that Lannery moved too soon last time and it cost her. That's probably not giving Just One Time enough credit. But when I watched that race, it's the first thing I thought. I was, where is he going around the turn? Sweeping past Just One Time at that point to make the first run. I still thought she ran really, really well last time, and I think she's dangerous right back.
And completing the field is the number 7 Edgeway, who has wonderful tactical speed and nice outside attack post position. Actually, there's 8 in here. Let's talk a little bit about Edgeway, who's won 3 of her last 4. The only loss came in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. She ran great that day. She was second to CC, who took advantage perhaps of a hot pace. Edgeway was kind of down inside. She worked out a good trip, but she ran well. She's underrated, Mike.
I think she is too. I'll be interested to see how she runs in here, Dan. To me, she's just maybe a little hard to get a handle on because, listen, her Breeders' Cup was fine. Not as good as CC. The other horses in that race, to me, were kind of no-shows. So I'm not sure if I want to give Edgeway credit for being second or if I feel like she just kind of got lucky and was second in there. I could go either way on that. I know she's won her 2 starts since, Dan, but, she was 1-5 and 2-5, just walking or beating those races. I mean, there were races she was supposed to win, and she did win, but they aren't particularly fast races.
Then we'll watch her last race, and I think it's a good point. Those races were mostly of the paid workout variety, but I'm sure she continued to maintain her fitness. I'm sure there are some folks that believe she could have run faster if necessary. She wins this race very easily over Private Mission. This race, of course, coming at 3/4 of a mile. Do you have a question mark or two about her going the 7/8?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I mean, I'm personally am not worried about it, but when you look at her 2 7-furlong races, on her card, I know one of them was the Breeders' Cup. She ran fine that day, and the other one was the Dogwood, where she was only second best, but it was followed by a really long layoff.
4 Graces is the number 8, and she won her first 4 sprint starts, and maybe she just hasn't taken that necessary step forward. She ran 5th in the Madison last time out. She was a big price that day. I do like her tactical speed. I'm a fan of this horse, but her recent form just doesn't excite me enough.
Me either. I feel like something probably went wrong with this horse, Dan. She was a really good 3-year-old. She only got 1 start in all of 2021. So something obviously went wrong with this horse. She's come back with 4 starts so far this year. She's running okay in all of them, but not well enough to beat this field.
Before we get to our top pick, I want to remind everybody, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for access to all of DRFTV's offerings. Time for our top pick for the Derby City Distaff. Mike, you're going with obligatory. That's my second pick. I'm using obligatory a lot in multiple race wagers. Just One Time likes to win races, and I think she's getting another good setup.
I won't argue with that, Dan. I feel like obligatory is headed the right way, though. I like her last 2 starts. I think she's getting better. And more than anything else, I think I kind of just wanted to avoid the horses coming out of that Madison.
Same triple, different order. Mike's going 5-6-2-3. I'm going 2-5-6-4. Should be a really fun edition of the Derby City Distaff. Best of luck.